Be prepared. We're under a rare alignment right now, and it's about to show you a part of yourself you'll wish you never saw. The Moon and Venus are aligning, and everyone's calling it beautiful, peaceful, divine. But what if I told you this light doesn't just reveal love? Tomorrow's conjunction isn't just about romance in the sky, because this time, the Moon and Venus are feeding something hidden: spiritual narcissism. And if you're spiritually attuned, you're already feeling it. Most won't notice until it's too late. The conjunction has already begun whispering its effects, even before it peaks tomorrow. Spiritual narcissism thrives under this energy. And the scariest part? You might not even realize when it starts happening to you. Because this conjunction doesn't attack, it tricks you. It makes you believe you're glowing when you're really performing. No one is immune, not even the ones who think they're above it. That's why awareness isn't optional right now. It's survival. Over the next few days, you'll notice it. Certain people will seem to glow. Their words will sound wise, their confidence magnetic, their presence commanding. But if you look a little closer, if you actually feel into their energy, something won't add up. It's like staring at a perfect painting that somehow gives off no warmth. That's because what you're seeing isn't radiance, it's performance. The Moon and Venus together can create the illusion of light, but not all light carries life. Spiritual narcissists thrive under this energy. They curate how they look, how they speak, how they appear to others. Everything seems aligned until you realize it's carefully staged to maintain control, admiration, or influence. Some people don't want to awaken, they want to appear awakened. This conjunction exposes that imbalance. It asks you to trust your energetic discernment more than your eyes. How do you feel when you're around someone? Do you feel inspired or drained? Expanded or subtly dismissed? That's how you tell the difference between authenticity and artificial light. The Moon reflects truth. Venus seduces it. Together, they create a perfect storm, one that forces you to see who's shining for connection and who's shining for validation. So pay attention. The ones who seem the most divine right now might be the ones who are most disconnected from their own spirit. If someone triggers you by exposing your flaws, they might be right. As this conjunction peaks tomorrow, emotional mirrors will start appearing everywhere. A friend's comment might suddenly sting. A post might feel like it's talking directly to you. Someone's tone might pull up a feeling you thought you'd already outgrown. And in that instant, your first instinct will be to pull back, to defend, to explain, to prove yourself. But the energy right now isn't here to shame you. It's here to show you. The Moon and Venus working together don't just expose others, they expose you. Every projection you spot, every irritation, every subtle need for approval is part of this mirror. The pain comes not from being attacked, but from being revealed. When the mirror shows you something ugly, it's not punishment, it's an invitation. This energy is raw and honest, but it's also healing. If something or someone triggers you, ask, why did that hit me so hard? What am I protecting? Because behind every defensive reaction lies a truth you've been avoiding. And that's exactly what this conjunction wants to set free. Don't rush to block, cancel, or dismiss those reflections. Sit with them. Let the discomfort speak, because the moment you stop running from what offends you, you begin transforming into what you were meant to be. The Moon doesn't lie, it only reflects. And right now, it's reflecting everything you still need to see. Ask them anything real and watch the wisdom collapse. Have you noticed how some people speak like prophets but can't handle the simplest truth? They quote sacred texts, drop poetic phrases, and talk in loops that sound profound. But when you ask something direct, everything starts to crumble. That's the hallmark of spiritual narcissism at its peak. Language used not to enlighten, but to impress. During this Moon-Venus conjunction, that kind of speech becomes magnetic. The energy of Venus wraps words in charm, and the Moon amplifies emotion. Together, they can make even empty sentences sound divine. You'll hear people talk about vibrations, alignment, or manifestation in a way that sounds beautiful but goes nowhere. It's all sparkle, no substance. Empty words can sound wise when they're spoken with confidence. This transit reveals that. When you strip away the poetic delivery and ask them something real, how do you apply that in your life? How do you treat people when no one's watching? The illusion dissolves. Because true spirituality doesn't need riddles to sound deep. It shows up in how someone listens, how they handle conflict, how they sit with silence. Venus loves glamour, but the Moon is a truth teller. This alignment pulls the curtain back on performative wisdom. If someone preaches unity but gossips in private, if they speak of compassion but carry judgment in their tone, this energy will expose it. It's the cosmos asking, do your words match your actions? Real wisdom doesn't fear being questioned, it welcomes it. So in the next few days, listen differently. Don't be hypnotized by how something sounds, pay attention to how it feels, because truth resonates quietly. It doesn't need glitter, it just lands, and something inside you recognizes it instantly. That's how you know the difference between a guide and a performer. This transit is a gift, but for narcissists, it's ammunition. When the Moon meets Venus, the sky glows with emotional and aesthetic power. Beauty meets feeling, attraction meets reflection. It's supposed to be a heart-opening energy. But for those already obsessed with how they appear, this same alignment becomes fuel for self-worship. Venus heightens the desire to be adored. The Moon amplifies emotional needs. Together, they can either deepen intimacy or feed the ego's hunger for validation. This is why spiritual narcissists thrive under this sky. They post more, preach more, perform more, chasing the high of being seen as enlightened. The soft light of Venus turns into a spotlight, and they can't resist standing in it. This transit doesn't create ego, it reveals where it hides. And the truth is, no one's immune. The conjunction affects all of us. It tempts you to show your growth instead of living it, to share your healing before it's even complete. It's the subtle urge to be admired for awakening rather than quietly awakening on your own. That's why this moment is so powerful. It exposes the thin line between authenticity and performance. Emotion plus beauty can be healing in the right hands. It's what makes art, connection, love possible. But in the wrong hands, it becomes manipulation, using light to pull energy, not share it. That's the dark side of Venus's charm, and the Moon's reflection makes it impossible to hide for long. Ego dressed in love still reeks of control. So this conjunction is a mirror and a test. Are you using this energy to grow or to glow for an audience? To express your truth or to curate an image? Because when the Moon and Venus unite, everyone shines, but only the honest will stay luminous after the glow fades. Stillness isn't always healing. It can also be a retreat from responsibility. We've been taught that silence equals wisdom, that the quieter you are, the more spiritually advanced you must be. But during this Moon-Venus conjunction, that illusion is cracking wide open. Many people are mistaking emotional withdrawal for enlightenment. They call it detachment, but it's really disconnection. They say they're protecting their peace, but what they're actually doing is hiding from the messiness of human life, the very thing that helps the soul evolve. This alignment between the moon and Venus creates a seductive calm, the kind of stillness that feels safe, even holy. But not all calm is sacred. Sometimes it's numbness disguised as peace. Venus makes that silence look beautiful, and the moon amplifies the illusion by turning emotional avoidance into a kind of spiritual theater. It looks serene, but it's hollow. Peace that fears discomfort isn't peace, it's paralysis. You might notice people disappearing emotionally under this energy. They stop communicating, they isolate, they label every conflict as low vibrational. It sounds evolved, but it's avoidance in spiritual packaging. Meditation, solitude, and self-reflection are powerful tools, but when used to dodge growth, they become forms of escape. This conjunction brings that pattern to the surface. The moon shines a light on suppressed emotion, while Venus romanticizes the act of escaping it. It's a perfect cocktail for spiritual dissociation, when someone becomes so obsessed with staying balanced that they forget how to feel. Being centered doesn't mean being absent. If you find yourself drifting away, shutting down instead of showing up, pause and ask yourself, am I at peace or am I just avoiding discomfort? Because real stillness is alive. It breathes, it listens, it engages. The kind that locks you away from truth isn't healing, it's hiding. And the conjunction of the moon and Venus is here to expose that difference, not to punish, but to help you return to the kind of peace that actually moves your life forward. There's a fine line between evolving and being obsessed with appearing evolved. This is where the Moon-Venus energy hits its most deceptive point, the addiction to constant spiritual improvement, the obsession with upgrading, leveling up, and ascending that makes spirituality feel like a never-ending competition. The conjunction amplifies that mindset because Venus feeds the desire to look radiant, while the moon magnifies the need to feel significant. Put those together, and you get the illusion that enlightenment is something you can perform, that the more you talk about it, the more real it becomes. But what if growth isn't meant to be constant motion? What if evolution requires stillness? Not the kind of stillness that hides, but the kind that integrates. Many people use the idea of ascension as a distraction from presence. They chase the next awakening like a fix, hoping it'll finally make them feel complete. But addiction, even to enlightenment, is still addiction. Transformation without integration is just spiritual entertainment. You'll notice it in conversations, in online spaces, even within yourself. The craving to announce every revelation, every breakthrough. I'm shedding layers. I'm entering a new frequency. I've ascended past this. These phrases sound inspiring, but they can mask stagnation. Because true growth doesn't need an audience. It shows in how you live, not how you label yourself. The Moon-Venus conjunction tempts you to fall in love with your own reflection, to confuse spiritual awareness with spiritual superiority. It whispers that you must always be evolving, that rest equals regression. But that's the trap. The soul doesn't grow on command. It grows in cycles, expansion, stillness, renewal. Even flowers stop blooming to gather strength underground. So if you feel like you're not progressing fast enough during this transit, understand this. The real evolution happening now might be invisible. It's the moment you stop performing growth and start embodying it. The addiction to enlightenment fades the instant you realize there was nothing to prove, only something to remember. Because under this Moon-Venus light, the ones who seem to be ascending aren't always the ones who are evolving. Sometimes the most enlightened thing you can do is stop trying so hard to look enlightened. This Venus-Moon combo will blur the lines between what you need and what you crave. This conjunction is like an emotional hall of mirrors. Everything looks familiar, but nothing feels quite right. Under the Venus-Moon light, desires become louder, but they also become deceptive. You might think you're chasing something your heart wants, when in reality, it's your ego whispering behind the scenes. That's the trick of this energy. It makes cravings feel like callings. Venus governs attraction, what you want, what you're drawn to. The moon rules emotion, what you feel you need. When these two forces meet, they can either create harmony or confusion. Suddenly, your intuition can sound just like your insecurity. You might crave affection, attention, or even approval, believing it's alignment or synchronicity. But the real reason might be much simpler. You just want to feel seen. Ego often wears the mask of intuition, and it's a convincing disguise. This is where spiritual narcissism finds its fuel. It takes ordinary emotional needs to be loved, to be understood, and turns them into spiritual stories. Instead of saying, "I'm lonely," it becomes, "I'm ascending past everyone." Instead of admitting, "I want validation," it turns into, "My light intimidates others." It's all ego, repackaged as enlightenment. And under this Moon-Venus glow, that repackaging looks beautiful, but it's hollow. The challenge right now isn't to stop wanting, but to understand your wants. Venus and the Moon aren't punishing you. They're holding up a mirror asking, "Do you know the difference between your desires and your wounds?" Because the truth is, not every urge that feels powerful is spiritual guidance. Sometimes it's unhealed emotion dressed in divine language. If you find yourself pulled towards something or someone this week, pause and ask, is this coming from love or from fear of not being seen? The answer will change everything, because love moves quietly, it doesn't demand. But ego shouts, it demands attention, applause, confirmation. Desire becomes divine the moment it stops needing validation. So use this energy wisely. Journal what you crave. Track what triggers you. Because when you strip away the ego's hunger for recognition, what remains is pure, a desire that expands your soul, not your image. And that's the beauty of this conjunction. It reveals where your love has been tainted by longing and where your intuition has been hijacked by insecurity. When Venus and the Moon blur the line between need and want, your job isn't to silence them, it's to listen carefully enough to know which voice is speaking. You can't fake humility under this sky. The Moon will show your real face. This Venus-Moon conjunction isn't just exposing desire, it's stripping down pretense. The people who spend their days proclaiming how humble and selfless they are about to be caught in their own reflection. Because false humility has an expiration date, and this energy marks its deadline. The Moon's light doesn't flatter, it reveals. It exposes every mask, every false modesty, every subtle "look how spiritual I am" moment that's been hiding under the guise of authenticity. Under Venus's charm, fake humility becomes easier to spot. It's the smile that feels rehearsed, the compliments that sound transactional, the "I'm just a vessel" captions on social media that somehow still center the poster. True humility doesn't announce itself, it just exists. This is the part of the transit where the spiritual narcissist's mask starts to slip. You'll see the love and light crowd subtly bragging about their compassion, comparing enlightenment levels, or humbly reminding everyone how detached they are. They don't even realize they're revealing the very ego they think they've transcended. And yet the moon does. It shows the world exactly who's still performing. The most fascinating part? This energy doesn't punish. It clarifies. It rewards integrity, not image. The more someone chases perception, the more obvious the illusion becomes. The ones who actually live their truth won't need to explain it. Their energy will speak for them. Humility isn't thinking less of yourself, it's thinking of yourself less. This conjunction is an energetic audit. Every word, every act, every selfless post will either glow with authenticity or crumble under the weight of its own performance. Venus exposes what we admire, the moon reveals why we admire it. If your actions come from sincerity, you'll feel peace. But if they come from ego, you'll feel exposed, even if no one calls you out. The real test happens when nobody's watching. How do you speak to others when there's no audience? How do you handle power, compliments, or recognition? This sky doesn't care about captions, it watches behavior. So during this Moon-Venus alignment, remember, the ones who truly embody humility will rise without even trying, while the ones pretending to be humble will find their masks melting under the lunar light. Because under this sky, the truth isn't just visible, it's undeniable. And as the moon moves on, it will leave one question echoing behind. Did you mean what you said, or were you just performing holiness for applause? Under the Moon-Venus conjunction, one of the most dangerous cravings begins to surface, the addiction to validation disguised as connection. The energy of Venus makes people crave affection, appreciation, admiration. The moon amplifies emotion and turns that craving into a need. Together, they create the perfect storm for spiritual narcissism to feed, because now people want to feel divine not through alignment, but through applause. Watch how it unfolds. Social media will become a stage for raw vulnerability. Crying selfies paired with poetic captions about rebirth, long emotional posts about downloads of love, and recycled quotes pretending to be channeled wisdom. On the surface, it looks heartfelt, healing, inspiring. But look closer, and you'll see it's driven by anxiety, a desperate need to be seen as special, enlightened, unique. Some people aren't sharing to inspire, they're sharing to survive the silence. The silence is what they can't handle. When the likes stop, when the comments slow down, when the messages of admiration fade, their sense of purpose begins to crack. Because what this conjunction exposes is how dependent many people have become on digital validation to measure spiritual worth. It's subtle, but you can feel it. Every post is crafted to sound profound, but emotionally safe, never too messy, never too real. They speak of surrender, but their words are dripping with performance. They talk about detachment, but refresh the page to see who noticed. This is the hunger Venus fuels, the desire to be adored, while the moon feeds the emotional roller coaster behind it. Attention is not love. It only pretends to be. This is where the test comes in. The conjunction will tempt everyone, even the genuinely awakened, to seek external proof of inner progress. You might feel the urge to share something just to be validated for how deep or in tune you are. You might catch yourself checking who's watching your stories or who gets your message. That's the moment to pause, because that's where the work really begins. This isn't about shaming the desire to be seen. It's about seeing the desire itself. To recognize how much of your self-worth has been outsourced to approval. To realize that the dopamine hit of validation is not the same as the fulfillment of alignment. Likes can feed your ego, but only truth can feed your spirit. During this transit, validation will feel like oxygen, irresistible, addictive, necessary. But it's a trap. The more you chase it, the emptier you'll feel, because what the Moon and Venus are actually showing is the emotional void behind the performance. They're not punishing you, they're reflecting your hunger back to you, asking, why do you need to be seen so badly to believe that you exist? Some will double down on the performance, inflating their spiritual image to fill the void. Others will sit in the discomfort and finally admit they've mistaken attention for acceptance and visibility for value. That's when the transformation begins. Because the ones who dare to stop performing, who can sit quietly in their authenticity without broadcasting every flicker of emotion, those are the ones who will truly evolve under this sky. The universe doesn't clap for you, it aligns with you. And when that alignment happens, you won't need to prove it. You'll feel it. The most divine thing you can do is be fully human. After all the noise, all the mirrors, all the ego unraveling beneath this Moon-Venus conjunction, what's left is something beautifully simple: your humanness. This energy isn't here to turn you into an untouchable being of light. It's here to remind you that your tears, your confusion, your messy contradictions are not spiritual failures. They're proof that your soul is alive inside a human body. For too long, spirituality has been marketed as perfection. Always calm, always wise, always glowing. But that version of divinity is sterile. It's an image built for followers, not for truth. And that's exactly what this transit is burning away. The Moon strips you down to your raw emotion. Venus, for all her beauty, reminds you that beauty means nothing if it's not real. Together, they push you to remember. Your flaws don't block your light, they reveal where your light wants to live. Stop trying to ascend out of your humanity. You came here to master it. This is where spiritual narcissism dies, not through judgment, but through honesty. It dissolves the second you stop performing enlightenment and start allowing imperfection to exist. Because the truth is, the most enlightened people aren't the ones speaking in codes of light. They're the ones who admit, I don't know, I got hurt, I'm learning. That's real power. Vulnerability is the final teacher the ego can't imitate. Cry if you need to. Ask questions that sound dumb. Admit that you still get jealous, insecure, lost. Feel things you were told to rise above. That's not regression, that's integration. Every emotion you've tried to bypass is still waiting for you to hold it, to understand it. When you do, it stops controlling you. The Moon wants you to feel it all, not to suppress it. Venus wants you to love it, not to edit it. Perfection isn't spiritual, authenticity is. So, as this conjunction fades, let yourself come back down to earth. Breathe, eat, laugh at yourself. Forgive your own contradictions. You don't need to speak like a prophet or post like a guru to be in tune. You're already divine because you're already here, living, breaking, healing, existing. The universe doesn't want you flawless, it wants you whole. The most sacred act you can offer under this sky isn't a mantra or a ritual, it's honesty. To look at yourself without filters, without defense, and say, this is me. Still growing, still human, still holy, because when the Moon and Venus finally part ways, what remains isn't performance or perfection, it's presence. And in that presence, you'll discover that being human was never the opposite of being divine. It was the proof of it. If you're still watching, I'd like to thank you for your attention. If you enjoyed the content and want to see more, please consider clicking the subscribe button. Your support is very appreciated. Feel free to share your experiences or thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, take care and subscribe for more insightful content.